Welcome to the February 2021 edition of Hunt Camp Mail. My unfortunate streak of canceled hunting and fishing trips continues to plague me. As you know, my trip to Zambia and Zimbabwe was canceled due to COVID-19. My deer hunt was canceled due to wildfires and forest closures. My High Sierra trout fishing adventure was canceled due to wildfires, and my marlin trip was canceled due to COVID. And now, this month's hunt was canceled due to extreme weather. This month, I plan to take you with me on a nilgai hunt in Texas. This hunt was going to be a free-range hunt on foot on just an enormous property that gets almost no hunting pressure. And the best part of it all, I plan to show you what the old 35 Wayland could do on one of the toughest beasts that roam North America. Unfortunately, that area of Texas was absolutely devastated by harsh weather, and the hunt was canceled. Please keep the people of the great state of Texas in your thoughts, and I really hope that their lives return to normal soon. The images of the fish and game die-offs due to cold weather really saddened me. Who knew that global warming could be so damn cold? As my subscribers probably noticed in their feed, I just posted a load development video. This has been a highly requested video for a couple of years, and I initially wasn't really interested in doing a boring reloading video, but my mail is just getting filled up and overran with reloading questions, so I figured I'd just go ahead and do one. As a matter of fact, more than half the mail I probably answer privately involves reloading questions. So that video kind of morphed into a video into something covering the most common questions and some of the most common problems I see with people's reloading process. And I hope I was able to get across the fact that many accuracy issues are blamed on the ammunition when it's actually the shooter that's the problem. So without further ado, let's get to some of February's mail. And our first question is from Robert in Alaska. Robert asked, "What are your thoughts on hunting grizzlies with a 50 BMG? This is a serious question, so please hear me out and don't judge. I have a single-shot 50 BMG rifle, and I learned to shoot it very accurately well past 1,000 yards. I think it would be a unique experience to make a long shot on a grizzly bear with the 50 BMG. The 50 BMG is a devastating round that would kill a bear very quickly and ethically. But I talked to a couple of bear guides that do fly-in trips, and both of them refused to guide me if I took my BMG and shot a bear from 1,000 yards. I even offered them a good amount of money, and they still refused. It seems hypocritical to me that it's socially acceptable to hunt a grizzly with a bow that makes the bear suffer and die a slow death. Yet it's considered okay to put a bear down, but yet it's considered not okay to put a bear down immediately with no suffering using a 50 BMG rifle. Desert Dog, what are your thoughts on this?" Wow, that's a pretty hard question to answer there, but to be honest and fair with you, Robert, when I read this question the first time, I kind of wrote you off, but, I did a huge facepalm. But after reading your entire letter and absorbing the argument a little bit more, you actually laid out your point in a very logical and intelligent manner. It's not often in this day and age where someone actually makes me rethink my own preconceived notions. As long as you're not doing anything illegal, hunting ethics is a code we live by on a personal level. I'm a firm believer that we should hold ourselves to high ethical standards while hunting. So be mindful that I'm going to answer your question in that context. First, let's explore your pain and suffering argument, which is a valid one. Many European countries don't allow bow hunting for this very reason. Many European countries began initially banning bow hunting because they feared that poachers would go onto private lands and stealthily and silently poach animals in the night. But most of the European countries that currently ban bow hunting do it because they use the same pain and suffering argument that you're using. Experienced hunters, though, realize that this argument holds absolutely no water. If you take a lung shot with a rifle or a bow, that animal is going to run for a little bit before it dies, regardless of what you use. I think people look down on bow hunting as unethical. I think people who look at bow hunting as unethical are basing their judgment on pure emotion and maybe anti-primal cultural norms. They see bow hunting as being barbaric. But I'd counter that argument by pointing out that stalking within 30 yards of your prey is probably the most ethical and pure form of hunting ever. So the reason that guides are turning you down, in my opinion, is twofold. Firstly, the real ethics of hunting embodies the actual act of hunting. It's matching your hunting skills and wits against the incredible senses and instincts of your prey. It embodies the concept of the fair chase hunt. At 1,000 yards, those bears can't see you, they can't hear you, and they probably can't even smell you unless there's a really strong wind at your back. When you shoot at an animal from 1,000 yards, it doesn't even know it's being shot at. You could literally take 20 shots at an animal from 1,000 yards and it won't even know you're doing it. And in the end, you have to ask yourself, is that ethical? In my mind, that is not fair chase hunting. Keep your 1,000-yard shooting skills on the shooting range and brag to your friends about your groups to your heart's content. But when hunting, brag about how close you got, not how far you shot. The second reason that those guides really don't want to be a part of your hunt is basically logistics and practicality. Those guides know that you'll be humping your rifle around for countless miles over some absolutely nasty terrain. And they know that your 18 to 25 pound rifle, it isn't going to make it to where they want to find bears at. It's also too damn big to trudge through a heavy cover with all week. Also, there's a good chance you'll have to take an offhand or kneeling shot on the bear at a very close range, and that big old 50 just isn't going to do it. That 50 BMG isn't too much for, it isn't just too much for bears. It's too much for elephants. There's no practicality to it either. In my personal opinion, I'm actually very glad that those guides that you talk to chose ethics over cash when they turn you down. Not every guide would do that. It's good to see that some people out there still don't have a price. And I know I just rambled on with a huge long answer to this question, but it's because I think it's actually a very profound and relevant question that you asked. And I think it was deserving of an insightful answer, but I know I'm going to go back through this segment of the video and I'm going to end up editing out a lot of this because I rambled on too much. But, in the end, I know what you're trying to do. I know you want to do something different or cutting edge or cool, but shooting a bear with a 50 BMG at 1,000 yards is neither cutting edge or cool. You really want to impress the hunting world? Stalk within 40 or 50 yards of that bear, look that damn bear in the eye, and put a 375 H&H right into its shoulder. That would impress me. And our next question is from Jack from Pennsylvania. Jack wrote, I'm a new hunter whose favorite rifle is the Swiss K31. I'd like to use it to hunt white-tailed deer within 150 yards with iron sights. Is this a bad idea? Please tell me. No one in my family hunts or reloads, so I wanted to reach out for help. What's great about this is you can load 7.5 by 55 brass with 308 caliber projectiles. From watching your videos, I have chosen the Nosler Partition. However, I need some help in choosing the bullet weight. Well, Jack, I absolutely love the Swiss K31. It's one of my favorite rifles, and I have a bunch of them. Some of them I bought back in the early 90s for like $80, $90 at Big Five Sporting Goods. And that GP11 ammo is some match grade stuff. I mean, this is definitely the most accurate military ammunition ever produced. And these are probably one of the most accurate combat rifles ever produced too. So, I actually thought about doing a K31 video because I love that rifle so much. If I was actually going to hunt with one of my Swiss K31s, which I wouldn't hesitate to do, especially within 150 yards on whitetails, I'd use the 165 grain Nosler Partition. It has that Spitzer design rather than the round nose design. And you should be able to get up over 2,600 feet per second easily, and maybe even hit 2,700 feet per second with it. And this has a better profile, I think, to match the factory GP11 ammo. So this is the bullet I would use. But watch for seating depth when you load these, because the bullets used on the GP11 ammunition have a really weird ogive. So you have to tinker with seating depth a lot to use any other bullet but these. But I think the Partition is a good fit for you. And our next question is from Steve from Arkansas. Steve wrote, okay, so I've got my 375 H&H. What I'm interested in learning from you is your thought on a recipe for a 250 grain TSX bullet using CCI large magnum primers and H4350 powder. Where should I start to make accurate loads given those ingredients in once fired factory brass? Do you think that bullet is adequate for Alaskan brown bears? Well, Steve, 250 grain bullet in a 375 H&H is the absolute perfect brown bear combo, in my opinion. Definitely don't second guess that decision. Having said that, I think H4350 is a little slow for the 375 H&H with 250 grain bullets. You probably end up with a compressed load with real mild velocity, which should be okay for close shots, but you're leaving some performance on the table. Myself, I shoot the 250 grain TTSX in my 375 H&H and love H4895 powder for that application. A little bit faster of a powder would be your friend in this situation, I think. And our next question is from John from Western Australia. John asked, my question is regarding a comment you made in the January Hunt Camp Mail video, where you noted that it is illegal to hunt mountain lions in California, despite the fact that they are overpopulated. You also mentioned that California has also banned bobcat hunting and bear hunting with hounds. I was wondering if you would be interested in making a video on the issue of predator management in California and North America in general, as I know it is a very big topic of discussion, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on the subject. Well, thank you for the letter, John, and I'll definitely consider your idea. Outside of California, most of the United States has a very good conservation model when it comes to predator management. They base it on scientific study and carrying capacity. In California, by contrast, laws are based on pure emotion rather than sound science. So thank you for the recommendation on the video, John. Okay, and our next question is from Steve from Quebec. Steve asked, I have a Remington 798 Safari model in 375 H&H. I recently purchased 270 grain interlocks, and I'm searching for the perfect powder to match it. Do you have any powder suggestions? Well, Steve, for a 270 grain bullet and 375 H&H, I recommend a powder between H4895 and probably Varget. IMR 4064 should put you right between that. So 4064 would be a great powder to start with, in my opinion. And our next question is from Aaron, Aaron. Aaron asked, I found a couple of leftover CZ 550s and 416 Rigby, but I really like what you had to say about the 416 Rem Mag. Just curious if you think the overall practicality of the 416 Remington on a Model 70 outweighs the value of the CZ and an old school 416 Rigby. I can only get one, unfortunately, and afraid the Rigby may start to fade since CZ halted production. Well, you made a good point on both parts of that question, but I really can't answer this for you, as they're both fine rifles chambered in fine cartridges that perform basically exactly the same. You know, the Model 70 will be a much better quality rifle with a higher resale value, and 416 Remington Magnum ammunition will be a lot easier to get. The CZ has better magazine capacity, and the old 416 Rigby is one of the most iconic and nostalgic rounds that you'll ever hunt the African continent with. So personally, I would personally err on the side of quality and practicality and go with the Model 70, but that's just me. And our next question is from Marius in Germany. Marius asked, after watching your latest video about reloading the 30-06, I wondered if you use reloading tools to calculate your internal ballistics. I'm not a reloader because in Germany you have to do a 2 to 3 day course with an exam so you can buy powders. But I do know some things about reloading, and many of my friends are reloaders. Well, most serious American reloaders use all the tools available to them when they work up loads. You know, we'll reference manuals for bullet and powder manufacturers and cross-reference that data with quick load, but that's just to find a starting powder with the proper burn rate and a charge weight to start at so we could safely work up in pressure. After that, honestly, reloading isn't about manuals and computer programs. You know, it's about what the rifle likes and the data that the rifle itself gives you. You know, each individual barrel will react differently to different bullets, powder charges, and seating depths, and, you know, behave in a very different way. And you have to let the rifle be the final word on load development, not manuals or computer programs. And our next question is from Ronnie. Ronnie asked, I know H4895 is a faster burning powder, ideally suited for lower weight class bullets, but any advice on using this powder for the 165 grain partition or even the 150 grain interlock? Okay, Ronnie, I'm going to assume you're talking about the 30-06 or maybe the 308, but we'll just answer this question in the context of the 30-06 because you didn't tell me what cartridge you were shooting it in. But H4895 should be perfectly fine for your 150 grain interlocks. You know, you should be able to still get those 150s up to 2,900 feet per second or a little bit more with that H4895, but you're definitely probably not going to break that 3,000 feet per second mark that a lot of people like when they shoot the 150s and 30-06. And our next question is from Thomas from Belgium. Getting a lot of international questions this month. Thomas wrote, my brother decided to take this hunting course this year and started at the beginning of January and exam in April. If he passes along with the exam, he'll get his hunting license. I can assure you, it takes effort to study it all. Let me know what you think of this. And Thomas basically sent me files with the course criteria and some of the things they're going to be tested on. And he wanted me to review all the information that they have to go through in order to receive their hunting license in Belgium. Well, I can't speak for every state in the United States, but in my state, we basically cover the same criteria in our hunter's education course, but in a much more simplified and condensed form. But we do it in 2 days and then take a quick exam. In fact, most of that subject matter was taught to me by my father and grandfather before I was a teenager anyway. So it was very redundant for me. I feel bad for you guys for having to jump through so many unnecessary hoops in your country in order to enjoy the hunting lifestyle. Hearing things like this, really puts American freedom in perspective for me. And I hope our society doesn't get caught up in a culture of requiring people to go through so much bureaucratic red tape in order to enjoy, something as simple as hunting and, in order to enjoy what should be a right. And our next question is from Dave from California. Dave wrote, I'd like to know if you'd be able to refurbish my 74 Winchester Model 70 and 270. There'd be no rush, but I'd like a wood stock taken down and refinished like your shotgun video. I'd like you to blue it, and if able, recess the target to a target crown. Well, Dave, unfortunately, I don't do any gun work for profit and haven't for over 15 years. In fact, I really don't enjoy doing gun restoration and gun building very much anymore. It's a great deal of detail work that has to be spread out over a long period of time, with very little benefit to me personally. Redoing a stock properly, going at it a little bit every day or every other day, it might take me 3 weeks to do a stock. So, it's not something I really enjoy doing. And quite frankly, I really don't need the money anyway. I mean, I'm currently running a successful business and, and I'm working, 50, 60 hours a week sometimes. So I'd rather spend my evenings after work doing something else besides sanding stocks and bedding actions. And, I'll do projects for personal use or for someone, for maybe a close friend who makes it worth my time. But gunsmithing and doing detailed stock work, it's definitely something I try to avoid at all costs if I can. I hope this also answers Tom, Gary, and Martin's letters as well. And our next question is from John from Madera. John wrote, Desert Dog, I'm just up the road from you in Madera County. Your content is great for us locals. Your Euro versus American hunter video was good. Too many American hunters focus on trophy size. It's obnoxious and paints us all the same. Hunters love nature and animals as much as the tree huggers do. I suggest you do another on how American hunters can be better by focusing on the hunt experience itself and taking pride in oneself as a hunter. You have great influence over many who watch, especially younger viewers. Well, thank you for your kind words, John. And I really want to make a hunting ethics video, but I've always been conflicted about doing so. A video like that would have to strike a delicate balance between promoting ethical ideals without being, a condescending blowhard, trying to force his personal beliefs on people who legally hunt. But I might start putting together some material and just see where it takes me. Our next question is from Richard. Richard wrote, Hey Desert Dog, I recently picked up a few boxes of federal Upland steel loads and was curious about your opinion of these. Haven't had a chance to run them through my new Monty yet. The 1 ounce of 6-shot has been my load of choice for mixed bag of Upland for many years. Well, Richard, number 6 steel is absolutely perfect medicine for dove and quail. And, they also work okay on chucker too. For pheasant, I move up to number 5 steel shot. But with your federal Upland steel loads, I like those loads because they give you a very high velocity. And high velocity is the only way to really make steel shot work good. You have to see how it patterns in your gun with the chokes you want to use, though. I have a couple of flats of number 6 federal Upland steel and a few flats of the Kent Upland fast steel number 6. And the Kent loads pattern much better in my shotgun. So it's best to let your gun choke combo choose the right ammo for you. And our next question is from Jose from San Diego. Jose asked, when you load 30-06, do you change your load when you change lots of powders? That's a fantastic question, Jose. The answer is yes, no, and maybe. I know it's not much of an answer, but hear me out here. The Alliant powders, for instance, and some ball powders have a huge lot-to-lot variation in my experience. If I was using a new lot of Reloader 17, I'd go down about 3 or 4 full grains of powder and, work my way up from there, and I'll most likely end up changing my load completely. By contrast, the Hodgdon Extreme powders have the least amount of lot-to-lot variation in my experience, especially Varget. With these powders, I'll usually go down about 0.6 of a grain, less than my existing load, and load up in 0.3 of a grain increments until I'm 0.6 over my original load. This lets me test the new powder with about 5 different rounds. The lot-to-lot stability is why bench rest shooters love Varget so much. And our last question is from Marcus from Florida. Marcus wrote, greetings from the sub-freezing state of Florida. I love your channel and the variety of content you provide. I know you are an avid pig hunter, so I wanted to ask, what is the best bullet for pig hunting? Well, Marcus, I have to agree with you. You've gotten pretty cold in Florida lately. I've seen some of the fish die-offs there, and it really saddens me. But, the gators probably aren't doing so well either right now. So let's hope the weather turns around and we have a good summer. But to answer your question, the absolute king of all pig bullets has to be the TSX, especially if you shoot them through the shoulder like you should be doing. But any adequately heavy monometal bullet will do the job, as will a bullet like a Swift A-frame, or most bonded bullets. But you have to remember that pig anatomy is different from a deer. You don't want to make those behind the shoulder heart-lung shots on a pig like you would on a whitetail. And, pigs run pretty far and fast, so you don't want to wound one. So I'd definitely go with the TSX if I was starting somewhere. Well, that concludes another month of Hunt Camp Mail. I also want to thank Paul from Canada, Darko, Terry, Mike from North Carolina, Jeff from Mississippi, Kurt from New York, Aftab from Corona, California, Chris from British Columbia, Frank from Idaho, Renee from Mexico City, Bob from Lancaster, and Joshua from Utah for your letters and kind words. I do have some great videos coming up for March, even something to satisfy the urgings of you 270 bots out there. So subscribe and stay tuned for notifications on that. Well, I hope everyone has a great St. Patrick's Day and receives the luck of the Irish. You can reach me with any questions or comments at desertdogoutdoors@gmail.com. As always, thanks for watching my channel and good hunting.